For austerity. When the banking crisis threatened to bring down the state, the Irish government took an axe to its balance sheet. Ireland has become the first eurozone country to exit its bailout, thanks to cuts worth almost 30 billion euros. While many sectors of the economy are now recovering, the effects of the collapse still reverberate. As Stephen Carroll reports in today's Focus, an exit from the bailout won't change much for those hit by unemployment, mortgage debt, or emigration.
It's a village that's seen better days. When Ireland's economy was booming, this part of County Kildare was hot property. All across a commuter belt that stretched up to 100 kilometres from Dublin, the number of new housing estates exploded.
So how was your day today?
Caroline and Stephen O'Connor bought their house in nearby Allenwood, some 50 kilometres from the capital, at the height of the boom in 2006. Like so many others, they were hit when the property bubble burst.
Our property pretty much halved in value, so well below even what we owe well exceeds the amount of value of the house. If we waited to buy until now, kept our deposit and just rented for a few years, we'd be able to afford a house in Dublin for less than what we actually paid for this house.
But as the value of their house tumbled, there was more bad news on the horizon.
In 2009 then, I was made redundant, actually made redundant just before we got married, so that was a shock. I didn't get work again then until the following year, even though I did look straight away. I was very unfortunate. From that permanent role, that went straight into another redundancy. I was only there, I say, just under 9 months.
In all, she was out of work for 2 years before finally being hired in August. Even with two incomes, Caroline and Stephen can't afford to move closer to their jobs and their friends in Dublin. While the banks have been bailed out, they've been caught in the negative equity trap.
Now all their debts have been written off and we're still crippled with the big mortgage.
That debt also means that moving abroad isn't an option, but it is a choice that many others are making. Ireland has a long history of emigration. These statues commemorate the millions who left the country during the famine of the 19th century. But the economic crash brought with it a new wave of emigration, hitting levels not seen in 30 years.
I think it's been an enormous regret and one of the saddest features of the collapse that we're just exiting now, thankfully, that young people in particular have left home to seek employment abroad.
And that tide of emigration doesn't show any sign of turning. Killian Woods and Kevin Byrne are recent graduates. With unemployment still over 12% in Ireland, their options are limited.
Everyone's sitting tight, holding on to their jobs, making sure they are secure in their own future, which is understandable, but leaves graduates who are leaving college in a very murky situation where there's no jobs to take on, and they kind of have to go abroad looking for their work.
I'm already talking to some people about leaving. We're looking at finding a place in Seattle at the moment. It's very early stages, but it's something that I would love to do to get away. It's sad to leave everything behind, but I suppose you've got to stay positive about it.
Dan Hayden teaches budding entrepreneurs at UCD's Innovation Academy. Many of his students lost their jobs in the economic collapse. He believes the young have been unfairly targeted by the government's austerity policies.
If you're under 25, you're meant to live on €100 a week, when every other group older than that has €185 a week in job seekers allowance. And I find it hard to understand exactly what the rationale is behind that. You know, when we have 25% youth unemployment, there clearly aren't jobs there. We're not creating enough jobs for these young people. It's not a case of incentivising them to seek work. They want work. What we're really saying is leave the country because there's nothing for you here.
That's a charge the Irish government rejects, and as the first eurozone country to exit its bailout programme, the international lenders seem to agree.
The view of the European Commission is a very clear view. They have assessed the 4 programme countries and they have said that of all of the programme adjustments, the Irish adjustment was the most progressive, was the fairest, and that those who had the widest shoulders in terms of income bore the biggest cuts.
Cold comfort to the hundreds of thousands of Irish people who've left the country since 2008 and to the many more who are saddled with debts that will take decades to pay off.
Now it's time for our